It's Q&A time, the first of the new season, but with a twist. I'm on the road now to go and pick up John Townley, and then we're going to head into the Podimore Heath studio to answer another batch of your Aston Villa questions. That'll do. Oh, who's this hooligan? Get out of the road.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Townley.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, mate. Good to see you.
Wow.
It doesn't feel like the season started for Villa yet, does it?
No, we didn't really get off to a good start, did we? I mean, results decent enough, but it doesn't feel like we've kind of took the season by storm, does it?
Yeah, like no goals, no kind of emotion in the match really, apart from the red card. The lack of talking points, it made it, you know, firstly the football match was boring, but then also post-match, to be perfectly honest. I don't mean you.
Podcast thanks, mate.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about this for a long time. When I come to pick you up, we just talk about the Villa. So it's like it's dead space. We might as well make this the podcast. So I've got some questions. I'm not going to read them directly off my phone because I am driving. Although we are at a red light, so.
Oh, there's lots of red lights around it.
Yeah, lots of roadworks everywhere it seems. I didn't want to start with an actual question from the Olof mailbag. I wanted to talk about Jacob Ramsey a little bit.
Okay.
That's officially confirmed now that he's obviously gone to Newcastle last night. This was. Do you feel any differently now seeing him in the black and white?
Not really.
No.
What I would say, and this may be very not controversial, but I think we knew this anyway, that he was happy to go to Newcastle, but seeing him, you know, he's not miserable. I'd rather us sell a homegrown talent like Jacob Ramsey and him be happy to make that move, if that makes sense. I think it would crush me a little bit more if he'd gone to West Ham and he's holding up a shirt and he can't break a smile, because that is just, you know, this has helped nobody, but possibly West Ham. Granted, I don't want Newcastle to improve, but at the same time, I just feel like it's a good move for all parties. Yeah. So that's kind of my stance on it. Villa, I think it's good money for Jacob Ramsey. Jacob Ramsey is happy with the move to Newcastle. Newcastle want Jacob Ramsey. It's kind of like we all just shake hands and move on. Yeah. So, as fans, we can obviously have a gripe about financial rules, but ultimately, knowing the position that we're in, 39 million rising to possibly 44 for Ramsey is, I think, a fair deal.
Just coming to another set of lights, John, so I'll do a quick question.
Yeah.
Is John's twin a Villa fan?
What? Yeah, absolutely.
Is he Blues?
No, you wouldn't be allowed in the household if not. Yeah, no, absolutely Villa fan. We grew up supporting Villa. It's one of those things where, when did you start following Villa? I don't remember. It was just put into me. I don't know when that was. It might have been like 4, I don't know. I know my first kit was the 0506 Hummel shirts.
There's a follow-up question, I haven't got it in front of me. It was on social media, and it's something like, John's twin should do the podcast and see how long it takes anyone to recognise. You're not identical twins, are you?
No.
We'd know straight away.
We don't. No, I was born, I don't know, a couple of minutes before him, but...
Did you hold that over him? That you were older?
No, not at all. But, no, don't look... Well, I don't think I look anything alike.
I think
maybe people will say, well, I don't know.
I've met him a couple of times at Villa Park, and I think, I don't know, I know he's your brother, so I think you do look alike. Like, I can tell you're brothers, but you're not identical twins. So you couldn't swap a shift with your brother and he do the podcast, and nobody knows.
Yeah, ball knowledge will be turned out, checking. You want to get in this lane if you can?
Left?
This one.
Yeah, I'm in it, aren't I?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm sending you to Bodymore. I'm doing it.
I don't want to go there. Well, I do want to go there, but... First question then, John, for our Q&A on the road. We're actually opposite the Odeon, Costa, the bowling complex, if anyone knows where we are. This is from Lightfoot, who says, I can't shake the idea that Onana would be a perfect Villa captain one day, but I can't tell you why. Do you see it?
I see it. I think if you look at the team, if you had to pick a captain in 2028, Onana would be up there for me.
If he's still here.
Exactly. There's so much that can change in the squad, but if you look at McGinn, Martinez and Mings, maybe they'd be on the way out in the next few years. I mean, it could be next summer, could be summer after that. So if you look around the team, I think I'd pick a player who would obviously be younger now, but also has characteristics of leadership that you want to see in a captain. I think he definitely has that. I think he could probably be a captain for his country as well, Onana.
Yeah, he's one of those that I think you'd label as he gets it. It feels like he gets the club already, and you need a bit of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's in that category for sure. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, good goal celebration as well.
Great goal celebration, one that Yamal has possibly taken now
it's
as
a crown.
well. So that, yeah, a crown. Yeah. Taps his wrist. I don't know if he does that anymore actually, but I think the West Ham game he tapped his wrist.
Yeah,
my
definitely
time,
did.
crown. It's mad how that was a year ago, the West Ham game.
I know, I was kind of thinking after the Newcastle game, was that first game last season? I just can't remember it. Yeah, Onana and Duran. What a long time ago that feels.
Wow. Yeah, well, that like questions like this, good question, but also to think about the future is so much can change so quickly.
You know what I like from Onana? His little 1, 2, 3 in the pocket. I'm going to have to do it.
3.
Coming down the tunnel, 3 points in the bag, 3 points in the pocket.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a lovely little celebration, that is.
Yeah, it's nice. I think if you're a defender and you'd pocketed a number 9 or something, you could go for 9 fingers, but you'd be there for a little while.
Right, should we do the next question?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, all right, let's do it. Our first walk and talk question then, John. Now feel free to walk off quicker here at 100 miles an hour. Remember Gary Neville and Jeremy Carragher walking away from Kelly Cates? I can be Kelly Cates here. Johnny asks, how many games of not getting a start will it take for Malen to get disillusioned?
Oh, okay. And there he goes into the distance. Disillusioned, I think, maybe a strong word. Is he frustrated about the situation? I think that's already happened. He won't be happy, Malen, not playing. No player at this level, especially one who top scorer for Dortmund this season before he joined Villa. £20 million, would have been expecting to play much more. However, what I would say is that yes, he's had a fantastic pre-season, but this is also a very long campaign, and we could be looking into the middle of November, and maybe Malen's started successive games, and is among the goals. It's such a long season that I'm not going to say straight away, okay, well, if he's not starting against Palace and after that Everton, Sunderland, it's a situation that we need to ask questions about. You bring in a player like Gesson, who can also play Malen's role well. That's more competition for him, but ultimately you need this. Malen needs this as well. I don't think anyone wants to see Malen start every game and not have competition for his place. I think we'll get there with Malen. He'll quickly prove himself to be an important player for Villa.
Let's do this one next from Gary, who said, without Yuri Tielemans at number 6, we find it difficult to progress the ball. So does that end the Yuri at number 10 experiment?
No, not for me. I think Tielemans has still played exceptionally well, closer to the strike, like we saw the Man City and Arsenal games, didn't we, the season before last.
He's done it before, not specifically at the weekend, you mean?
Yeah, and I kind of want to tie this into the Malen question that I just answered then. Well,
I didn't hear any
Villa,
of that. So.
yeah, well, Villa have depth, but I struggle to leave John McGinn out of the team for a start. Morgan Rogers has to play.
Yeah.
So Malen has one position in the team that he, one slot for me.
Yeah.
People will be saying, "Oh, McGinn, if he's not playing, well, you don't have to play him." I agree with that, but more often than not, I think that's the player who I want to see on the pitch. In the double pivot, you have Kamara and you have Onana and Tielemans. Obviously, only 2 positions there.
Yeah.
So there's versatility there for me. I think, just quickly going back to it, Malen could kind of rubber stamp his position in the team with consistent performances, but as could Gesson. However, with Tielemans, I do think his versatility is super important to what we're trying to do, and as well Onana, that's a profile of player that you can't
He's also
replace.
a £50 million record signing, like surely you have to play him somewhere.
Yeah. And I said in our season preview, that's the player for me to watch out for. I think he could be in for a really important campaign, and you know what you're going to get with Tielemans. But I understand in certain games, I was actually saying at half time, and to be fair, I said before the game, play Tielemans 10, Onana, Kamara, double pivot. Because it worked last season having Onana at the base. But the amount of times it would give possession away quite cheaply, Newcastle were pressing and getting onto us man to man. Tielemans, you wanted him to get on the ball, knock it around the corner. Tight spaces, he's excellent in, right? That's what we needed, and that's what we were missing.
Yeah, here's a scenario for you then. I spoke about this actually last night with Dan Bardell on his podcast. That is there a kind of working theory that if Tielemans plays further forward, you have to play Torres because he will progress from deep because Tielemans isn't. So if Tielemans plays further back in the pivot, let's say, Mings can play because Tielemans is going to pick up the ball and spread it. As if Tielemans is further forward, you kind of need Torres as well.
I tend to agree, to be perfectly honest.
Good analysis.
Yeah, but then you would also say if Tielemans is playing as the 10, that means that Onana is almost certainly playing with Kamara.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, that means that you're probably playing a team who offensively are very strong.
So you
right?
want Mings.
Yeah, so it's a hard kind of balance to have. But I definitely understand the logic. However, this is all, it's interesting because Emery might look at this and think, well, literally what I've just said there, maybe the balance doesn't work as well as he'd like, and that having Tielemans in the double pivot, he's not 6'5" and he's not as competitive as Onana, but then he offers you something very different. Yeah. Second ball, Villa would often lose the ball as a result of winning the second ball, if that makes sense. So we'd get there.
That's
Kamara,
really annoying. That's really annoying when that happens.
Kamara and Onana can win the ball back, and it's like, okay, well, you've got possession now, but then you overturn it straight away. So that was what was really frustrating, and I know a lot of the Villa players as well were very frustrated about how they played because they know they're a lot better than that. And I do think that maybe just because it's the first game of the season and we were sluggish, we were sloppy, that makes Tielemans in the 10. Does that really work? Well, actually, if this was halfway through the season and players are sharp and they've got the passing crisp, I think a lot changes there because it was really, Kamara 5-yard passes, Onana 5-yard passes, most of the players as well, Rodgers, McGinn as well, we were very sloppy, and that in itself is one thing. Tielemans as a 10 and Kamara and Onana in the double pivot, and then your question about Mings and Torres, that's something else altogether. But we're saying all of this, what we do have there is options, and I think that's the most important thing.
Right, John, next question specifically for you. I understand that some transfer stories can be leaked by clubs or agents for PR purposes or to agitate for a possible move. How often, if at all, are you fed information from a club, and what process do you have to decide whether it's worth reporting or not?
Great question. So, in my line of work, accuracy is, of course, the most important thing. It's not about being first, it's about being accurate, right? So, if we're talking other clubs, I don't have, for example, the right sources. Within Everton, I'm the Villa journalist, so all my energy goes there. If there's a story, for example, Everton's interest, very strong interest in John McGinn from earlier in the season, if you kind of use that as an example, I try and firm that up with the Everton writer on the Liverpool Echo, who's our kind of sister title, and then you go from there. Every story will be different. If we're talking about agents, you will get information that is completely wrong or information that leads you to something else. Quite often you will have truth in parts of what you're told, but then usually it kind of, how do I put it, the truth lies between the middle of what you're told through different sources, right? So I think the most important thing is to verify it with people who you trust, and that's certainly something that of course we'll always do, but between different clubs, I'm the Villa journalist, so it's it's obviously imperative that my sources, either within the club or people involved in what I'm reporting on a daily basis, are obviously strong and accurate.
This next question is from The Groover. It's a transfer question. Yeah. Would you guys consider a move for Trossard or Asensio? Trossard, a pretty solid performer over the last 5 years, whereas Asensio's had a good 2-month run. Now I think Asensio on loan makes sense. He obviously knows Emery, he knows the club because he was here just before. If the financials of that work, I'm okay with that. Trossard's an interesting one, but I wonder, are Arsenal going to want a permanent move that Villa can't afford? Or would they loan him to Villa? I'm not so sure. Straight away, Villa obviously, from what we've been told and as we've been reporting, a move for a guess-on-like transfer. It's a deal that's worth up to £30 million. Villa do not expect to be doing that. So therefore you're already in the market of, okay, you either bring in a youngster who is cheap, and we've seen lots of them come in and go out 2 months later, or could you buy a more experienced player or loan a more experienced player like we saw Asensio last season. Trossard I would love on a loan, I think. He's a good player, isn't he,
I'd be happy to be permanent, but I don't know what that would look like in the baggage of financials. Equally the same as Asensio, I'd only want a loan, because if you're taking him on for 2 or 3 years, what if he does exactly what he did last season and has a great 2 months, but like Coutinho, then just tails off completely? We've had that situation before, we know what happens, we've been there and done it. So
I don't think Villa will operate smart, so that they know a loan is it's the most financially responsible option, and from a football perspective it's very low risk as well. Would PSG want to give out a loan when he's then going to see his contract end at the end of the season? So you'd have thought PSG will want some sort of sum. And I'd be happy to pay a sum of money,
But what is that sum of money? I think that's the key thing. And as you said, Villa will be responsible with what they do, I'm sure, because everything that I've been told, and everything I've been told within the club is, please, this is you have to kind of temper expectations with what we're trying to do in the transfer market, because the rules really have held us back this summer.
Should we get inside the office?
Yes, let's do it.
Doors open.
Okay, next question then. We're going to answer whilst we play table tennis / ping pong, whatever you want to call it. It's from David. Will we sign a specific replacement for Ramsey for left midfield / left wing, or will we just go with what we have now, maybe with Jimo Aloba being involved? Your serve.
I think, to be honest, I'm trying to make you move.
Answer the question, John.
For me, we need width, but the width from the left usually comes from the fullbacks, right? But I am but I'm a little bit anxious about what we're providing width-wise. We saw that the width was very, very narrow, wasn't it, against Newcastle. Emery was even asked after the game in the post-match press conference, "Are you too narrow?" And he said, "Yeah, like sometimes we definitely did lack width." So that's what last season I kept saying. Bailey gives you that option. Maatsen or Dean, when we have possession, they're so high and wide, you have enough to stretch the pitch. I remember the game against Leipzig last season, when I was watching it so high up, we stretched the pitch so much that we always had time to bring your midfielders into the game and make the most of the space that we created, but we didn't have that against Newcastle. So whether it's a left winger or it's a right winger, for me, definitely need someone who provides natural width and is capable as well of impacting games too.
One more game?
Yeah. That'll do.
Nice. Hi John, next question says, why can Nottingham Forest spend over 100 million just like that when their revenue can't be anywhere near ours? Are their owners richer than ours? Hopefully, if I can understand it, I can stop letting it annoy me and just enjoy the season. You answer that, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea.
Firstly, how much wealth an owner has doesn't really matter these days, as we've seen. Sawiris and Eden's, where are we, $10 billion or so, maybe more, and they can't spend. No, even if Marinakis did have more dough than those two clubs, they still wouldn't be able to spend as much as they would like. However, what I would say is that surely Forest next summer will be looking to sell big again. What I would say is they did sell Alanga, didn't they, for 55 million, so that's a big sale for them. Granted, not completely pure profit, but I don't remember them selling for big money either, so probably got quite a low book value. And to be honest, I look at other teams and what they spend is what they spend. I think, if you're going to spend big, then you're also going to have to sell big. That's the same for every team who doesn't have the revenue of the big six clubs. You look at Gibbs White, they were desperate to keep him. I don't know if there'd be a clause or one with a no disclosure agreement next summer as well, but you'd like to think that Forest would be selling as big as Villa have been. They don't pay a wage bill that's as big as Villa's, you would say that, but if they're going to stay in European competition, European competitions, UEFA, they obviously limit even more so what clubs are able to do. So the more that Forest are in Europe, the more they're going to have to, like Villa, limit what they're doing in the market. So I wouldn't worry about what other teams are doing. Villa are obviously hamstrung, Forest will be hamstrung, more so than just this summer as well.
But there is that sense of frustration, and we're going to talk about this on a separate podcast, probably tomorrow, of this unfairness to the Premier League. No, that why can't clubs just spend the money? If you make £40 million profit off Jacob Ramsey, but you cannot reinvest that, that's bad for the game. No, like surely you should be able to do that.
Precisely that. I don't want it to come across when I say hopefully Forest would have to sell, that's more because they're a rival, but ultimately you want Forest, Villa, Newcastle to all be competitive and all be able to crash into the big six and consistently challenge and compete, not just on the pitch but also in the market. So yeah, Forest, Villa, Newcastle, it's like can we form an alliance sort of thing and try and bring down what is essentially a cartel of clubs.
With hopefully a couple more players joining before the window closes, what would you deem a realistic / successful season?
Oh, good question again. It's difficult. I mean, we're going to have a little chat about the Premier League in a different video, and we've got kind of a few things to get off our chest there. I still just look at the Europa League as the win win that, and all of your season objectives are completed. However, even if you get to the final, it's still going to be a situation of, goodness me, everything rides on this. I still think it's realistic. I still think it's realistic. We know this summer was going to be difficult, but it's always realistic for us to win the Europa League if we're paying good wages, have a big squad, have Unai Emery, and the rest of the competition in the Europa League is, it's going to be strong, but I don't see a team there who I think I'm scared of. And if that's the case, you go out and you try and win it. It's time that Villa win. In the league, European qualification is always going to be Villa's target. Their ambitious objective is to get into the Champions League, but I think most Villa fans will be aware that there's certainly 3 clubs who should be taking up the top 3. The 4th place for me is still, as we talk now, up for grabs. I've said it for a while. I don't think Chelsea, the fact that they spend money simply means that they're going to kind of wrap up top 4 in April or whatever. For me, that isn't the case. Even last season, how many points did we finish behind them? Was it 3 in the end, maybe? They didn't have Europe. We did. They didn't have Europe because they played the weakest squad throughout the whole of the Conference League. So I think Villa are still in a good place compared to their rivals. And as well, when you think about it, Villa are in a position where potentially they can move away from the other pack of clubs, maybe a Brighton, Bournemouth, who seem to be pillaged every summer. They do recruit well, of course. But even last season, there was a point where Villa, are they even going to get into European football? And in the final weeks of the season, it became pretty obvious that they were going to be fine for at least the Conference League. I think Europa League has to be the aim every season, though. Dan, what do you think?
I don't know. I think realistic aims probably are still to compete for finishing in the Champions League places. I mean, there's a bit of doom and gloom after the Newcastle result, but that doesn't really change anything for me. We lost to Newcastle away from home 5-1 a couple of seasons ago that we finished 4th. So the first game doesn't kind of set the rest of the season. However, it is going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. There is a sense that a lot of the clubs around us have strengthened and we probably haven't at the moment, but there is still something into keeping hold of that core unit that we've got. So I'd like to think pushing for the top 5 is doable. Certainly the top 7 and being in some kind of Europe has to be the kind of minimum aim for me. And obviously win something. You've got to win either the Europa League or the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, just to have that sense of crowning this era with something tangible. We've spoken about it a hell of a lot on the podcast, and it feels like if it's not now, when is that moment going to come? We know about the restrictions for the rules and the spending and whatnot. You just get that feeling of if Villa don't win anything this year and they finish 7th, is that really success? Does that really count for anything? Whereas an FA Cup win and a top 5 finish and getting back into the Champions League, that is something tangible and worth kind of playing for, and will hopefully allow Villa to spend a bit more freely next summer as well. So I still think, despite the kind of rough transfer window and the kind of drab start to the season, that's still realistic. Right, we've made it to Poddymore Heath. John, should we start the Q&A?
Yes.
Right, a couple of questions to go then. Since Unai Emery has arrived to the club, have we spent well in the market?
Onana, you had to bring in someone to take the load off Kamara when that's required. Kamara will play every game if he can, but when he can't, you need someone there. And hopefully that's Onana. Last season obviously had injury struggles, and we did say big season for Onana because we know he can improve, but also if you look kind of deeper, stay fit, because if he can stay fit, he will improve. He broke down a bit too much last season, came back a bit early from a hamstring and injury, and that didn't go well.
And there'll be games when we're playing a Bundesliga side who are 14th in their league in the Europa League, where you go, Kamara doesn't need to be in this one.
Yeah,
Onana will play that role.
I tend to agree. Yeah, or they come on or come off. Yeah. If you kind of look into the forward areas of the team, we're looking at Malen. Duran was signed, obviously, hardly a player that Emery would have thought, oh, we need this. Like we've forgotten the big one here, Morgan Rogers.
Oh yeah.
That kind of trumps everything. But that wasn't a Morgan Rogers situation of let's watch Middlesbrough. Who's that? Like, let's go after him. He didn't watch Chicago Fire. I wouldn't have thought before joining Villa. Anyway, or maybe he would have. Who knows? You never know. But that's a great deal because firstly it gave us the Bayern Munich moment, kept us going at the start of the season, and sold for big money. So Duran for me is a massive tick. I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but he's a loose cannon. He did what he did for Villa, fine, and then we got the money. Good deal. Rodgers, 10 out of 10 deal, fantastic. Malen, some question marks over what his best will look like for Villa, if that makes sense. I think we all envisage Malen playing a key role and a big role, and as I said earlier in this video as well, but we still need to see how that works under Unai Emery. And I'm hopeful of that though. Diaby was an interesting one, a player who started really well and then tailed off a bit. Still had an important contribution towards the back end with an assist against Luton and West Ham, so 2 points there for Villa. But then when he was sold, Emery even said himself he wasn't quite what we wanted or needed, which is interesting because it's a lot of money to pay for a player. I don't want to put a number on it because I think it's very difficult when Villa have got these constraints. What I would say is their net spend has been very, very low. I don't think they could have done much more than what they have, considering the restrictions that we're under. And I mean that genuinely, because again, net spend is we've sold so much. Our net spend is minus 75 million since last summer. That's the period where you really wanted to be able to kick on, which haven't been able to do so. Yeah. We have a fantastic left back department. We have 2 midfielders who are absolutely crucial to what we do in Kamara and Onana. Whether they play together or not, we'll see more consistently. But that kind of destroyer of a midfielder, that's really important in what Emery's system is. Tielemans on a free transfer, probably the best or one of the best midfielders in the Premier League last season. So I think it's very easy to look at X player cost this amount, or we've signed Adelkovic and then sold him for a profit of only this amount of money. But I would just trust the team who have helped Emery get in the position that we're in now, still being able to compete even with the restrictions, that they know what they're doing when they sign someone and then they're gone. Like Brenacher, for example, you bring him in from the Louise thing, and Louise thing, I'm kind of going on a little bit here, but the Louise thing was you had to find a seller. If that meant bringing on 2 players and bringing in £40 million, okay, we'll do it, because that will stop us getting a double-digit points deduction. Brenacher comes in, he's worth more than €15 million, absolutely, but with a 30% sell-on clause, if he goes for big money out the Portuguese league, which is probably a likely thing, Villa will have then made the money that you would expect them to make from that player in that first point, because he needs game time. You can't just bring him into a match every now and again in the Premier League and expect him to be worth £40 million at the end of 2 years or whatever. So the long answer, kind of long way around it, but I think what we've done, there'll be bits that every sporting director or manager would want to change here and there, but if you look at other clubs, West Ham, Man United, we really haven't done that badly at all.
You said you don't want to put a number on it. As you were talking, I was thinking of a letter, like a grade. Well, I think grades these days are numbers, aren't they? But in my
I was
day,
giving it like a 9 out of 10.
In my day, it was a letter. I'd say like a C plus. Like it's okay. I think there's some good business in there.
I would definitely bump it up.
Would you? I think there's potential to bump it up. I think Onana, Matson and Malen will become good players and important players, and that would probably bump it up to a B, I would say.
I would give it a B now, just because we know the difficulties that Villa have faced in having to trade players and then bring them in. Everyone knows that we're in a difficult position with either PSR or UEFA. Yeah. It makes our job, or their job, even a lot harder. So I would give it a B. I think you'd be looking at an A if some of those players like Matson and Onana were contributing in the first team and kind of like indispensable. Yeah. That would be an A for me. The only reason why it's not is just because we're still waiting to see a bit more from them, and when that happens, then I would be giving it an A. Because if you give the loan players as well last season, I think that's something that really, if we didn't lose that game to United, you'd be looking at it and thinking like that's a bit of a masterstroke.
Okay, final question for this Q&A then leads into what we've been talking about a lot throughout this theme of frustration maybe, and we're going to do a whole episode about almost the Premier League as a wider point actually of the big six and all that kind of crap. Final point from Dan. Can you see Unai Emery getting sick of working within the PSR nonsense and leaving Villa due to not being able to spend as we require?
That's definitely the worry among most Villa fans, right?
I'm sick of all these restrictions. I'm going to go back to Spain.
Yeah, because I can manage a team who have got money to spend. Like, if you think of Thomas Frank, he was. Someone asked him a question about the other day, like, "Oh, are you going to sign that number 10?" And he was like, "Yeah, maybe." And he's probably like a kid in a candy shop, going from Brentford, who don't really do much at all, to, oh my God, like all of this revenue. First press conference of the season, Emery was asked obviously about the frustrations of the window and PSR, blah blah blah. But I really liked his answer, and it makes me feel a lot less like chilled out when those worries kind of come into my head of like, oh, is he not just going to... Actually, though, at Sevilla, Valencia and Villarreal, he was competing with Real Madrid, Barcelona and Atletico, at points as well, among, some of the teams. But those specific sides have, huge sources of revenue that they can call on. Sign pretty much any player in the world that they'd like, but he was still able to compete, not to win the title, but be the best of the rest. That's exactly the same goal he has with Villa. and he's done that before. And I know that he did leave Sevilla after 3 years and Valencia after, Villarreal after, I don't know, 2.5, something like that. But there's different reasons for that. I don't know whether it be payment or different challenge, and but he's been to PSG, and that he said in the press conference that's the only time he's had to really kind of spend money. Arsenal didn't go well, and I think as we said lots of times before, he's probably a bit scarred from those experiences. So he goes to Villarreal and does so well, and then thinks, well, I can do that at Villa as well, and has managed to do that. So I don't think it's a situation where he thinks, oh, now they've taken Jacob Ramsey off me and they had Douglas Luiz off me. And I think it's more, and as he said, as long as you keep his key players, the ones that are going to be absolutely integral to win some matches, that for him is the most important thing, because he kind of mentioned in the Ramsey answer as well, he was asked about him and said, well, we can replace and kind of go again and rebuild.
Yeah, if this was Martinez, Konsa, Watkins and Tielemans
Kamara,
had left
Rogers.
this summer, you'd be like, okay, you're asking a lot of this manager to deal with that.
Yeah.
I actually think this us against them thing suits Emery.
Yeah, I do as well.
The mentality that we're an underdog and that kind of stuff.
This is kind of the next opportunity that I get to ask Emery if there's nothing else more kind of pressing at the time. Like, and I asked to John McGinn in Nashville, not Louisville, Nashville, about the frustrations of the winner, but also does it not kind of it is that us against them mentality, as you just say there, and he's kind of took that on as well. And we know that the play, we saw McGinn tweet after Ramsey left, and we saw Mings kind of say something different, and again talking to players, even off camera with McGinn, this is not right, this shouldn't be happening, but as you say, they're done. It's almost like a galvanising thing, and I think Emery will be drilling that into his players. Like, they've just taken one of our own. They've taken a player who's really popular in this group. Like, this shouldn't be allowed, but I don't know exactly what he'll be saying. Yeah, it's something along those lines.
It's not a time for kind of moping and feeling sorry for ourselves. It's like, we're hamstrung by these rules, and you're taking our players and whatever else, but we're going to show you how good we are.
And Emery has done this. The best years of his career have been in this situation. So that's why I think, for example, I don't know if this was Poch or Tuchel or something, other managers that we had been looking at, they've been able to spend money before, and their best years have come when Poch didn't spend loads of money, don't get me wrong, but he'd like to.
Yeah.
They seem like managers who, if they don't get their way, well, I can do it elsewhere, then, I'm not wasting my time here. Emery says that he's not wasting his time. He doesn't want to waste time, but with the kind of internally, I think, he brings the best out of him when he knows he's up against it. I think that's the key thing.
Okay, we'll wrap up there for this Q&A. It feels weird to say that in the studio because we've only done 2 questions. But we've done a lot of filming, as I'm sure you've seen. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this bit. It's been good fun to do something different. Now, we've said about taking the Q&A on the road, and we're not always going to just film our journey to the studio. It might be that we go and sit outside Villa Park or the Bull Ring or whatever. But it's been good fun, hasn't it, to do it differently?
Yeah, well, kind of moving on from America vlogs and taking you into not into our lives, but you know what I mean, going elsewhere instead of just these 4 walls. It is nice to kind of continue that, or hopefully continue that into the season, go to different locations, and we always said, didn't we want to increase our visual production, better ourselves on the podcast. So. Yeah.
So for those that listened on audio, you missed out on a lot of different visual things, and hopefully the audio is okay. It wasn't particularly windy or anything, so it should be fine, but obviously not as good as being in a recording studio. But it's been good fun. Let us know your feedback. We absolutely welcome it. If everyone thinks this was crap, then we won't do it again, but I'm pretty sure people will have enjoyed it. John, thanks for your time, as always. Stay there, because we're going to film something else in a second. Thank you very much for watching or listening to this episode of the Claret and Blue podcast. Come back tomorrow if you fancy a moan about the Premier League and PSR and the red cartel and all the rest of it, because we're going to get on our high horses and talk about that as well. So thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.